Hello, everyone. We're going to give it a minute or so while we get set up. We just have a little bit of a prep work we need to continue to do, but we'll get started really soon. And Utilia is Lucius coming to you. So I'll go ahead and do the opening, the disclaimer part that we always do. So all our HTA events are for educational purposes only. You cannot reproduce or redistribute this, but you can always contact me if you have any questions about the program, or if you need to get a hold of any of our panelists, you can reach me at eric@harbortrucker.com. Also, if you have any questions during the presentation, you have a question box that you can enter all your questions into. If you're only listening in and not joining via your PC, you can send an email with your question to eric@harbortrucker.com, and we'll address it during the moderated Q&A. We're still waiting for one of the panelists to show up, but Weston, if you want to give a little intro to Pacific Gateway.
Yeah, and I want to thank everybody for joining us for this webinar. I want to thank Nick and his team at Pacific Gateway for doing this. Fun fact for many of you, I get the pleasure of serving as vice chair of Nick's board, and Fred Joring also serves on the board, as well as some other members of the industry that are affiliated with HTA. And I can say for a fact that Pacific Gateway is one of the best and most highly regarded workforce boards in the country. They have focused on several different industries, but transportation and goods movement has been a key focus of Pacific Gateway, and they operate all the one-stop centers in and around the harbor, including Long Beach and San Pedro. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nick and his team, but thank you, Nick, for doing this for us today. And I hope everybody gets a lot of value out of this, because you have such great resources that our members can tap into, especially during these tough times. So thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Weston, and thank you to the HTA and the membership for having us today. I'm just going to take a few more minutes and dive down a little bit on Pacific Gateway and what Weston had already shared with you. Pacific Gateway is a local workforce development area, federally defined local workforce development area that serves the city of Long Beach, Signal Hill, and the harbor communities of the city of Los Angeles. We're one of 45 entities in the state of California. We have the bulk of our funding, and our funding sits right around $17 to $19 million annually from the federal government, and also some state and other philanthropic resources that support our work. We work in partnership with the city of Long Beach, and myself and my team are actually city of Long Beach employees. We have a relationship with the city as our administrative entity through the city's chief local elected official, who is Mayor Robert Garcia, and the mayor appoints a 19-person workforce development board that's composed of 51% private sector, 20% labor, and the other 29% of additional stakeholders and federal resources to oversee our strategic planning and work. As Weston mentioned, he and Fred Joring both sit on the board. We have two main centers that we operate out of, 4811 Airport Plaza Drive here in Long Beach, which is right adjacent to the former Port of Long Beach executive offices, as well as the Topaz building in San Pedro. Many of you are probably familiar with that location, as it shares office space with the Harbor Association of Industry and Commerce, which I'm sure there's some crossover membership with. Our goal at Pacific Gateway is pretty simple. It's to understand the labor market, those labor market dynamics, what our employer base needs, and then to utilize our resources to help those folks secure and properly upgrade the talent in the community. As Weston mentioned, we recognize certainly that the combined port complex of Los Angeles and Long Beach is the primary driver of the local, regional, and a huge part of the state economy. As such, logistics, goods movement, transportation is a huge focus of ours. And we hope today we can set the stage to engage with your sector even further, and mostly help you to help avail yourself of the resources we have. As most of that money is state and federal dollars, it's a prepaid service. You've paid your taxes. We have these resources to expend on you. The only further investment we need is your time and planning to deploy them effectively on your behalf. And with that, I'd like to flip it over to Lucius, and he's going to take you through what the majority of those resources available to you are.
Lucius, we can't hear you.
It says you're not on mute, but we can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Lucius. Utilia, can you arrange the setup for him that you had before when you were speaking? Give us 1 second, audience. Well, we're gonna get this resolved real quick.
Gosh, so Eric, I just want to check. Can you hear me now?
Yep, well, we can hear you just fine now. Great.
Okay, perfect. So sorry about that. Had exponential, ridiculous difficulty today on technology for some reason. So yeah, like Nick had said, my name is Lucius Martin. I manage our business engagement efforts system-wide. As Nick had shared, and Eric, if you don't mind going to the next slide, we have a number of locations where folks can access service. Our flagship location, we have our Pacific Gateway headquarters, which is at 4811 Airport Plaza Drive. This location also houses on the first floor our workplace, which is our adult-facing and kind of our Long Beach Signal Hill facing employer services. We also currently have our Youth Opportunity Center that's housed here. But it might have been suggested, we're getting ready to locate that to a new location in Long Beach later this winter, I believe. If you could go to the next slide, sir. Our other center that we operate out of San Pedro, the Harbor Gateway WorkSource Center, is adult facing. We have employer services there. In addition, we also have our Harbor Youth Source that is located on that same floor. We'll go ahead and move on with the presentation. And yeah, so some of the things that we were asked to discuss was around, how do we retain our workforce during these trying times? I've been working with a lot of companies, in and around the port complex. A company as large, actually, as 5,000 employees statewide, is currently participating in the program, and we have smaller companies as well that are participating. I wanted to kind of highlight this unique opportunity with the state of California Employment Development Department with their work sharing program. This is a very underutilized, not commonly known program. So this is eligible for any employer in the state of California. I'm going to go over kind of in a little bit more about it. It's essentially set up to help minimize and eliminate the need for layoffs. We have a wide variety of folks that participate in this program. You know, the idea is instead of completely separating or disconnecting those precious employees that you have, that workforce that's already trained, you can actually essentially reduce their hours down to, I think the max would be about 40%. So you pay them, they stay on your payroll, but then they're allowed to collect unemployment insurance for the remaining 60% of their hours. It's a great program. Obviously, you know, it's only used during trying times, but I wanted to make sure that y'all are aware of that. And we'll move on to our next slide, talk a little bit more as far as kind of the requirements. You have to be obviously a legally registered business in California. You need to be active as long as you're paying, you know, taxes in some way. Minimum of 2 employees. Again, that reduction in wages has to be at least 10%, no more than 60%. You have to maintain the same level of health and retirement benefits. And there's a few other things. At the bottom there's a link. That'll take you directly to the WorkShare application page. It used to be, it was an antiquated system up to just a few weeks ago where there was actually a paper application and you had to talk with someone on the phone. Now there is actually an online portal that you can go to and apply. There's a phone number there for someone, the group that you can call and ask some more questions. So we'll continue on with the next slide. Yeah, you know, I've been asked a lot about unemployment insurance, and maybe you're having to, look at some troubling times coming ahead. Hopefully not so. But to give you kind of a baseline background of what unemployment is, again, at any time, if you as a business owner, a manager, as a company, decide that you need to get to that level to lay off, please reach out to us, reach out to our team. We can come on site, or we can even do virtual rapid response sessions, regardless of whether you're located kind of in the Port of LA or Port of Long Beach complex, or even outside, where we can come in and provide direct services to your employers on site or on a virtual platform. UI in a nutshell, it's a weekly benefit. It ranges from $40 to $450. Currently, there's an additional weekly stimulus payment that has been set up through the CARES Act, and we're going to go over that in just a moment. There's also a 13-week extension that's currently available through December 26th of this year. And we'll move on to the next slide. I think we might have skipped one, Eric. If you could just, there we go. So, the Federal CARES Act, unemployment insurance, this basically set up some new connectivity availability for unemployment insurance for folks that were impacted within the state of California. There is what's called the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation. In California, we refer to that as the Pandemic Additional Compensation, the PAC. This is that additional $600 stimulus payment that everyone's heard so much about. Again, right now, that is going to be ending in California as of July 25th, unless there's some type of extension that is set up through the HEROES Act or some other type of legislation. But right now, as far as we know, that would be ending as of July 25th. Then there's the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation. So this takes what's normally 26 weeks of unemployment insurance in California, adds an additional 13 weeks on top of that. And then, looking at what could be more of interest to the HTA membership, pandemic unemployment assistance. So this is looking at all of those things together, the 26 weeks, the extra 13 weeks. This allows folks that normally wouldn't have access to unemployment insurance, have access to those weekly benefits now. So if you are a business owner and you've had to close down because of what's happening with COVID-19, because business has gone away because of the economic downturn, as a business owner, you could actually apply yourself for what's called PUA. if you're self-employed or you're an independent contractor, maybe you have some owner operators out there that are out of business, and you want to pass on some information to them that they would be eligible now to apply for unemployment assistance. And this applies only currently between folks that were impacted between February 2nd and through December 26th. This allows essentially for a weekly benefit that would range between 167 to 450 based on, obviously the wages earned in 2019, and then it adds again that additional $600 in that stimulus payment. We'll go into the next slide. So again, I think we've already kind of covered this. I know the state, again, the state of California is really reeling. They were caught off guard, like many of us were when everything had hit. So they're still trying to onboard the necessary staff required to be fully prepared for and to respond to what's happening. So we'll move on to the next slide because we've covered this. I think we might have missed one, so we'll just start there. Unemployment insurance basics. Again, back in the day, they encouraged folks to walk into the America's Job Centers, the workforce centers, or what was called the unemployment office. Currently, with the rapid rate and the mass amount of folks that are on the market, the best thing to do is to really go and file online. So if you're having that conversation with an employee and there's a pending layoff, they really should be encouraged to go online because that would expeditiously increase their ability to get those weekly benefits started sooner than later if they tried to reach someone on the phone or to send in a paper copy or a fax. So we'll go to the next slide. Yeah, so this, excuse me, this is what I really want to spend some time on. So, we were asked to kind of talk about, different strategies, to target this newly available talent, or to really expand partnership with workforce development boards such as Pacific Gateway. There's a number of ways to kind of plug and play. One that's, just kind of on a basic level is we have what we would call customers. So these are folks that have been impacted, they've been laid off, they've been dislocated, their hours have been reduced, so they're coming in to connect with their office. So they're virtually connecting or walking into the Harbor Gateway Workforce Center, they're walking into the workplace here in Long Beach. We see folks that, maybe they were laid off from a specific, I won't name it, maybe they were laid off from a specific regional drayage or a distribution company. They have a CDL license and now they're looking for a new opportunity. Y'all may be interested in connecting with that kind of talent. Maybe you're looking for a yard goat. I always encourage folks to reach out to us first. It could be additional cost savings. Sometimes you don't even have to put up the Indeed ads or go on Craigslist or use a more expensive route to try to source talent when in fact the talent excuse me, is already here in the harbor port complex area. We also, in addition to having folks that already have those skills, that already have that experience, we are constantly turning out folks that are going through training programs. So as most of you know, we partner with a lot of local truck driving training programs. We provide scholarships or grants actually that folks do not have to pay back to attain heavy equipment licenses, truck driving licenses. Oftentimes, we'll pay up to $7,500 for these schools to train folks. So we, on a regular basis, do have people that are going. I'm just going to kind of focus on CDL right now, but we regularly have folks that are going through CDL training, either to transition into bus operator or into a commercial driver position. So that's another way that you can kind of plug and play with us. Reach out, say, hey, do you have any folks that might be getting out of training? And we can definitely let you know about that. Let's say that you had a different type of a position, something that requires more skill, more experience. you know, again, I always encourage folks, I encourage our employer partners in the area to reach out to us. You'd often be surprised. I can tell you that, you know, almost on a weekly and a monthly basis, we get some wild requests from an employer that's looking for a .NET developer with, you know, C# and you know, this type of skill and this type of skill with a bachelor's degree and 15 years of experience. And, you know, we roll the dice. We reach out to our customer base. We talk to our career specialist teams that all manage and work intensively with caseloads, sometimes upwards of 100 individuals each. And we get resumes back, and then we forward those to you. You know, we're a government entity. We are fee-free. If you reach out to us and we send someone to you that you like, we are not going to charge you 25%. There is no cost to access our services. So, you know, kind of in that direct hire, direct source program, you want to make sure that you're on our list. So, and that we're aware of what type of talent you might be looking for. I can tell you, I'm not going to give any names, but, you know, we provide services to several, you know, train operators, drayage companies, truck driving, distribution, warehouse facilities in and around the port. And they know that we're kind of their one-stop shop to, you know, source that talent. And so, you know, if you haven't already tried this out, definitely give us a try. That kind of dovetails into a new hire program that we have. And I know we've had HTA membership in the past participate. This is called the on-the-job training program. So this is all, you know, dovetails with the direct source program. So if you reach out to us and you say, hey, gosh, you know, we're looking for a new driver, and we want to make sure that they have, you know, a certain type of experience. We source some folks for you. They're enrolled and registered into one of our federal state training programs, and we present them to you, and you're like, gosh, you know, I really like them, but, you know, I think they need a little bit more experience because they're coming from, let's say, hypothetical, they're coming from Reyes Coca-Cola bottling, and they've had some good experience, but now they're going to be kind of going in and out of the port complex, and they're going to have to use my proprietary navigation reporting software, and I'm going to have a trainer with them. If you tell us that they need some training time, we will actually come in. You know, you hire them; they're on your payroll, but essentially Pacific Gateway will reimburse a percentage of their wages through a training duration period that's not dictated by us. In fact, you would tell us. So if you tell us that, you know, majority of these usually, you know, around 360 hours. We do have programs and certain grants that allow us to refund, reimburse wages at a higher rate. It's kind of dependent on the individual that is participating. But let's just say, for example, that we're looking at, you know, 300 hours, and you're paying this person, let's say, $20 an hour for the position. Then we come in and we reimburse $10 an hour. So at the end of the training period for 300 hours, you know, you're getting $10 an hour times those 300 hours back. So that's $3,000 that you can take and then use elsewhere within your company, maybe hire more folks or do whatever you need strategically. So that's our on-the-job training program. Again, also too, it can be a reverse referral. So if you find someone, maybe they're a veteran, maybe they just got out of the service, and you're like, hey, I really like this person, but, you know, I'm going to be taking a little bit of a gamble with them, and, you know, can you, I'm going to send them over your way. Can you tell me if they're eligible for on-the-job training? And we found out that they're eligible. Even if they started with you, there's a possibility, a potentiality that we could come in and provide that wage reimbursement for them. So I'm now going to go into our work experience programs. Many of you know, possibly the folks on the call might be familiar with this. We manage, administer a variety of summer youth internship programs. I can think of a few fondly, most recently in partnership with the Port of Long Beach. I think we might have some Polk colleagues that are on with us today. You know, we've gone out, talked to those businesses that are connected to logistics and goods movement. And, you know, we can take a student, a young person from Cabrillo High School who's studying in the Academy of Global Logistics, AGL there, who's learning about, you know, the distribution and warehousing industry, and actually cover their wages for a summer, even during the year. Sometimes it's 120 hours. We put them on the Pacific Gateway City of Long Beach payroll, We cover workers' comp liability, and you just host them and provide, a solid work experience for them. So if you're interested in that kind of youth internship kind of model, please reach out to us. We're now expanding as of this year into our adult population. We've seen like a resurgence of interest with our federal and state partners, where they're like, yeah, go ahead and use some of that allocation that we have, and let's look at our adult population that's over 18, over 24, that may need some assistance. I'll give you just kind of a quick example without naming the company. We have a healthcare agency in the greater Long Beach area that was having to do some onboarding very quickly, and they needed an HR assistant. They weren't sure how long they would need that person, and they thought, gosh, we could probably save a lot of money if we went with this adult work experience program with Pacific Gateway. They reached out to us. We just had someone that had been dislocated from another kind of job, and they'd gone through HR training with us. So we were able to offer them up for 400 hours of, I don't want to say free labor. They're doing the work, they're getting paid, but it's under the direction now of the HR manager for that hospital organization. So there's all kinds of ways to partner with us, cost-saving programs, and also just, that good feel of reinvesting in the community, giving an opportunity to someone, that needs a leg up. And I know definitely from all the folks I know, and I've met with HTA, Fred and Weston and the whole crew, that y'all are, y'all aren't just about making the money, you're about that contribution and that give back to the community. So our work experience program is definitely one of those. I want to talk a little bit about our incumbent worker training program. So this is something, we have an allocation, we have monies available for this, and I'm just going to use kind of a relatable example from my experience within kind of the logistics industry. Let's say that, you have a few, yard goats that they're like, hey, these guys have been with us, gals have been with us for a while, and, we want to see them transition from, that stalker, that kind of just driving the forklift around the field, to actually moving it into a permanent driving position. And you reach out to us, you let us know, and we're like, hey, that's really cool, because that would open up an entry-level position that maybe we could help you backfill. There's an opportunity where we could partner together. We come in and we actually share in the cost of that. So maybe we take over a portion, half, maybe even more of that cost it would take to provide the driver's training or whatever it may be for your existing workforce. So if you see ideas or opportunities there where you can create a new job by upskilling a current employee, reach out to us, because there may be a way that we can partner. Again, it's all about that cost savings for the company. And then lastly, I'm going to kind of conclude with customized training program. This again is another way to partner. I'll give you our most classic example. Over the course of the past decade, our leadership team here has been working with Memorial Care, Long Beach Memorial most specifically, where a decade ago they came to us and they were like, gosh, we're not too satisfied with the certified nursing assistants that we're getting generally from the applicants we're getting. They're receiving a wide variety of training, and we really want to create something new. So in tandem and partnership with them, we were able to create a program called the Patient Care Assistance Program. And over the course of the decade, just kind of a lowball estimate, probably at least 700, possibly I think several hundred more patient care assistants have been trained. Essentially what it is it's a program that occurs before the hire actually occurs. So in the model of that patient care assistant program within healthcare, there's 7 weeks of pre-hire training that takes place, where we recruit the folks, and then we share the cost of the training, taking that person off the shop floor or the hospital ward or emergency room, that nurse that can then provide the training downstream to these new recruits. So again, you have the direct source, the on-the-job, the work experience, incumbent worker, customized training. I guess to make a long story short, and kind of conclude with my presentation, if you have a thought on a way that you want to partner with us, if it's cost savings or community benefit related matter, reach out to us. And I think with the final slide, Eric, I think I have my, again, Nick's contact information, my contact information. And I think from there, unless Nick wanted to add anything, maybe we could move into kind of the Q&A if there's any questions.
Yes, thank you. And then the slide that I blew past on accident is the pandemic assistance fund. Did you want me to go back to that to talk about it?
No, I kind of gave a more in-depth overview initially than I was going to, so I think we're okay on that piece.
All right. So we're going to move to the Q&A portion. So I have some questions that came via email, and I have some that I wrote down. But at any time, go ahead and submit the questions via the chat box or send me an email, eric@harvardtrucker.com. So one of the questions that came in was for the pandemic unemployment assistance for the owner-operators. Owner-operators usually drive for more than one company. To refer them to you for that assistance, is that something that the company themselves that employs them has to organize, or is that a resource that I let them know about for them to pursue, or do they need me to sponsor that towards you?
So this would be the owner operators that are independent of an actual company, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You would have their information.
I'm assuming, yeah, they would have the company would have their information.
Yeah, I mean, essentially they could, we could send you the link again that could be shared. We do have, we could field questions related to it. We also have bilingual staff, so if there's staff that speak other languages besides English, we could be able to assist.
Great. Okay.
Oh, yeah, Nick just brought up a great point. If y'all think there's even if it's a small group or a large group, we could set up a webinar just like this, and we could with that aggregation of that group, we could actually go over the whole process and kind of walk them through what it would take to apply for unemployment insurance through that unemployment line.
Okay, so if anybody on the call needs to, you can contact them directly, or if you want us to, help you get a hold of them, you can always reach out to me if you want to set something up for that for your drivers. Another question was the reimbursement for the training on wages for training. Is that only for new hires that they find through your service, or is it any new hire that they have?
So if the company, if their HR team, the management team is sourcing someone, they can reverse refer that person if they feel there might be, and it's kind of hard to go into eligibility because there's so many different ways that someone could be eligible for one of our programs. But kind of the classic example is if they're not working obviously, and maybe they were laid off, or they mentioned in the onboarding process or the interview that, hey, I left Reyes Coca-Cola because they laid all the truck drivers off, and I'm now, looking for work. And if you want to move forward with them in that process, you can reverse refer them, so you could actually, connect them directly to me, and we would take them through to see if they would be eligible. Otherwise, the easiest way to get around that is if they do come directly from us, we're kind of giving the stamp to people that they are eligible for on-the-job training program.
Great, thank you. That makes sense. You mentioned that you have a talent pool of transportation people like CDL drivers and yard goats. Can you do you have other categories that you have in your talent pool for transportation? Maybe dispatchers, stuff like that. Can you reveal that?
Totally. I mean, yeah, as many of us know, a few months ago, right, we were at kind of the lowest unemployment rate ever, and things have certainly changed. But, historically, based on our location and our proximity to the port complex, the location of our centers, we've always had those forklift operators, those dispatchers that, gravitate towards our office because they live in the general area. So, I always encourage folks, if you have a position you're trying to fill, send me an email, reach out to us, and our team will do a deep dive and try to source some talent. We actually just we're in the process of setting up an on-the-job training right now with a 3PL company that's based in Long Beach that's hiring someone that was found within our system.
Okay.
So these types of things happen on a monthly basis. So please reach out.
There's another question. You mentioned the youth services that you offer training. Is that the talent pool? Are you pulling from that pool? If I came to you with my requirements, is that who you're pulling from? Or if I am a company that's hiring for XYZ position, I just come to you with my list of, hey, I want X, Y, and Z, and you'll review your talent pool and let me pick from them? Or is it like a self-service?
Well, I think there's two things. If your company wanted a summer intern that was subsidized through our program, we would help kind of make that connection. And we have our summer programs will start at like 14 years old, and they go up to 18 years old. Sometimes we have some out of school youth that might go up to 24 on the LA side, and I guess on the Long Beach side. But if you're looking for specific skills, you could reach out to us. Again, kind of going back to the example I shared within the healthcare space, that company said, hey, we want like a junior HR assistant. And initially they were thinking about a full hire, but then they were kind of wavering based on some things that were happening with the healthcare industry. Obviously, we know right now. So that person happened to be work experience eligible. They were, much older than 24, but had the experience that they were looking for. So we were able to subsidize that.
Gotcha. All right. And then what are the limitations on a company to participate with you? Do you have limitations on revenue, location? What are some limitations that you have for who can participate with you on the employer side?
No limitations. I mean, there's very few things, and I think the only limitation that's ever come up more recently was an employer that requested a youth intern, and the employer didn't have a brick and mortar place for that person to go. So that's typically the only, if someone works from their home, we can't send in a work experience individual to someone's home. So that would be the only limitation. With most of your membership, you all have brick and mortar offices or yards or centers or warehouses. So there really is no limitation. Geographically, we even service companies that are in Rancho Dominguez and Compton, other parts of Los Angeles that may be out of our direct purview.
All right. Thank you. And then I see a question. Let me just pull it up. Is there a real interest in drivers? I'm not exactly sure of the question, but let me just rephrase it. Do you have a lot of drivers in your pool? And I'll send a message to the person that asked this question for a little bit of clarification.
We do have drivers in our pool. We just actually did a hiring event with a company called CRST Expedited, pretty big long haul over the road national trucking company, and we had over 30 folks sign up to attend that event. That was last week.
Okay.
So that happened pretty quickly. So yeah, and that's the other thing too. If you are looking at a hiring need that you would like to do a virtual recruitment for, we have a platform that we can set that up where we invite you in. You talk about the company, we source resumes, we send those resumes to you for your review, and your companies would take it from there.
Gotcha. So while I get some more clarification on that question, I think they might be asking if those drivers that you have in your pool want to become fleet drivers as opposed to owner operators with people. But I'll double clarify with them. And then I think Weston and Nick had a little bit more conversation that they wanted to address following the interview.
Great.
So I'll get back to you guys with the clarification on that question.
want me to go ahead?
Go ahead, Nick.
Okay, so one of the things that Lucius hit on was our opportunity to do customized training. And he hit on some of the specific resources we have to do that. And what's really exciting for me is that there's a pool of resources coming available to our workforce development system through the state that's really in the wheelhouse of Pacific Gateway and the HTA. So CARB, which I'm sure you all know, the California Air Resource Board, has made some greenhouse gas reduction funding available to the California State Workforce Development Board, which is a conduit to resources for us as local workforce development boards to really focus on workforce development efforts in industries and occupations involved in implementing climate change mitigation, adaptation measures, producing, operating, and maintaining new technologies and equipment that reduce greenhouse gases, emissions, and planning to identify additional industry and workforce needs and opportunities associated with transition to carbon neutral economy. So to me, that's you guys in a nutshell, and some of the things you're focused with. There's going to be $53 million available for local workforce development on a competitive basis. And what I would love to do with Weston's assistance and some of the membership is really map out the opportunities for the Long Beach area and designate some career pathways and innovations that we could implement toward those goals of a carbon neutral environment, and really bring some funding to the area that will not only support job growth, but also the growth of your company. So we're really looking forward to that opportunity. The potential request for assistance, or RFA, is out there on the California Workforce Development Board's website and is open for public comment right now. We would love to have an industry association with your knowledge and magnitude take a look at that and comment on it. It will make the application process much easier and much more favorable in terms of us putting a response together. But I would love to see if, as a group, you're interested in pursuing that type of partnership. And I think it's an excellent opportunity to bring some resources right here locally.
Yeah, and Nick, I think the timing's great because next Thursday is our board meeting for the month. So between now and then, perhaps you and I can work together to get the necessary information in front of our board so we can help with those next steps. Thank you for bringing this opportunity to us. As you know, more often than not, the information we get from CARB is not pleasant. I know that for a fact. They're not our favorite regulatory agency in the world, that's for sure. But I do think that for our members specifically, especially those that are looking at transitioning to advanced clean technologies, there's a huge opportunity to tap into this workforce funding to make sure that they have the proper resources from a mechanic standpoint to help maybe retrain drivers on how to use this equipment, to work with some of our partners like BYD or Clean Energy in different and unique ways. Anything we can do, though, to help accelerate the industry without creating an economic burden towards these pathways are things that we're trying to do, despite the fact that in many cases we don't feel like we're getting the support from the regulatory agencies that we're really trying to assist in cleaning our air. So let us know how we can help. And I think if you and I can work together, if our staffs can work together between now and next Thursday, we should have the opportunity to put something in front of our board, and hopefully we can work to bring those dollars back to Long Beach and our port communities. I'd love to also see how we might be able to work together with the Oakland Workforce Board and the Bay Area to see how maybe we could help that as well. And I know you have some contacts up there. But whatever we can do to make sure that we're getting the resources in the hands of our members, who I think have been the most impacted by clean air regulations of any industry in the state of California, it's time that we make sure that we're doing what we can to support them economically through these transitions.
Perfect. Excited about that, and we can talk offline about what the next steps are, so you're prepared to take it to your board on Thursday, next Thursday.
All right, I appreciate it, Nick.
Sure. We can take any other questions. Our contact information's there. Eric and Weston, I just want to thank you guys again for the opportunity to get in front of your membership, and we look forward to a deeper working relationship and bringing some additional resources to the HCA.
Likewise. And at any point in time, if you or a member of your staff, as these programs come out, if you want to guest author any sort of newsletter article for us, we'd be happy to have you guys do that to help keep these programs in front of our members, to help them understand the resources. If you guys want to do a bit of an overview of what Pacific Gateway brings to the table that we can include in our newsletter, those types of things, anything we can do to educate folks on the resources that Pacific Gateway provides and help create access to these programs that I think would benefit many of our members, but they're probably just not aware of. Let's ramp up those efforts and do what we can.
Absolutely. Thanks, Weston.
So yeah, and I want to echo that. Thank you for coming to present to us today. That was a lot of good information, and I know some companies are having a little bit of trouble right now, and we all want to protect our workers. It's a value that we all have when we operate our businesses, I'm sure. And so if you have any further questions for them, you can reach out to me. I'm going to throw the last slide back up so you can see their contact info again. So feel free to reach out at any time. And with that, if there are any more questions that come in, I'll be sure to forward them on to you. And we'll get that last slide up there. Can you all see that? So go ahead and reach out to Nick or Lucius if you have any questions. And with that, I think we'll close it out.
Thank you all.
Thank you guys for attending today, and have a good one.
Thanks, Nick.
You too.